Some days, you wake up and train like normal. And some days, you wake up and hit with Alexander Bublik. This was one of those days. Okay, so day 3 of being a hitting partner at the Boodles was a double Alexander day because in the morning I practiced with ATP 57 Alexander Shevchenko, and in the afternoon I was scheduled to hit with Alexander Bublik. Now, although this video is primarily going to be focused on my hit with Bublik, I did want to include some of the clips of the morning practice with Shevchenko because I think it's really cool to see the difference in the way that the sessions were set up and the way that they're approached. Now, I did actually practice with Shevchenko again on the final day of being a hitting partner, so that video is going to be our full practice from the final day, and it's going to include a lot of point play out the hand. So if we just take a little bit of a focus as to what's going on in the session so far, we started from the back of the court straight away, and the ball got up to close to match tempo reasonably early on, and the intensity was really high. And this is quite different from some of the other sessions, as it took like 5 or 10 minutes to get that intensity up there, whereas Shevchenko was pushing it up there really quickly. And he actually asked me to move him about the court quite early on, so he told me to go a few middle, then push him wide a little bit, and then go middle again. The coach was even shouting out to me, "Don't be afraid to move him, don't be afraid to move him." So I think they really wanted him to get his feet going and work on getting behind the ball on this grass court. And to be honest, I think my 2 practices with Shevchenko were my favourite practices of the 4 days. He was really kind, asked me a lot of questions, really complimented me on my game. And I know that he was just being nice, but it really gave me a lot of confidence coming out of this session.
Playing good. Nice and service. What's your rank? You're too good for 1 point.
So the next thing we did was just hitting cross-court forehands and then some cross-court backhands. And these guys don't do too much different when they're preparing for matches. It's very much an extended warm-up kind of session, getting a groove for the ball, doing a little bit of movement, maybe changing lines sometimes to be a bit aggressive. But overall, there's not any funky, amazing, different sort of stuff that they're doing. It's just the basic drills, just done at a very high level, super relaxed and super smooth when they're hitting the ball, getting their feet in the right position and just finding good contact points every single time. Now, I think something else that's quite important to note is the rally length that's going on here is pretty long. We're having about 10 shot rallies and maybe a little bit more sometimes before an error is being made. And Shevchenko's not going for big winners like on the practice with Rublev, where he was going like 2 or 3 inside out and then hitting a big shot. It's a lot more consistency focused here and not going for massive shots, just getting a rhythm, playing like a solid 6 or 7 out of 10, really feeling the ball in the court for a little bit longer than some of the other pros before he went for a bigger shot. So next up, we just did a little bit of volley work, some points out the hand from the back of the court, and warmed up a few serves. And as I said before, my video on day 4 at the Boodles is going to include our full final practice session and a tie break out the hand. So after that practice, I quickly grabbed some lunch and then came back and waited by these chairs by the side of the practice courts. And after waiting there a little bit, I saw Bublik appear from around the corner, and I introduced myself and we went on court. He did a little bit of a physical warm-up and then we got straight into hitting. Now, straight away, I could definitely sense that the vibe of this session was a lot more chilled out, but in a concentrated way, if that kind of makes sense. So errors were being made, but it wasn't like he wasn't concentrated and not really trying. He was having lots of discussions with his coach about his forehand in particular, and was doing a good physical warm-up beforehand. But when he came on the court, like, upper body was super loose, made a couple errors in the service box, but didn't seem too concerned about it. And I think the main focus of this session for him was to get a good feel of the ball, trying different shots out. He did some one-handed backhand, he did some slap forehands, he was consistent for a few shots, but then he would hit a winner after like 3 or 4, or he would just hit one as hard as he can, even if it went out. And I think it was just about getting all that tension out of the body and really just going through the ball and trying different shots out. Because of course, if you watch him play matches, he does all these different types of shots. He does the drop shots, he does the one-handed backhands, he does a lot of slice, he does hit some slap forehands. So it makes sense that when he's actually practicing, he practices those type of shots. I think it would be wrong to say that he's doing it because he's not really trying. I think it's just a game style, and it's a game style that he has, and it was really interesting interesting to see how mentally he was very on it on this session, but practiced in a completely different way to the likes of Shevchenko in the morning and Aliassime on the previous day. And if we just watch this rally here, I think this was actually the longest rally that we had down the middle the whole practice session. All of the other ones were a few balls middle and then a drop shot, or a few balls middle and then a big hit into the corner. And it was almost like he was practicing not getting a rhythm, or getting a rhythm within himself, but practicing not giving the opponent a rhythm to play with. And I think for me personally, being a hitting partner for this session, it was one of the toughest ones that I've done, because you got to stay focused the whole time. You don't have the consistent rally coming towards you to get into that state of mind where you're comfortable going ball after ball after ball. When there's constant gaps between these rallies, it makes it really difficult. And what's not being shown on this video here is the amount of time that was taken between the rallies, because he'd hit some balls and then have a conversation with his coach, and then hit some more balls and then talk to his coach a little bit longer. And the gap between the rallies was almost similar to the gap between rallies in an actual match situation. So coming on and having to deal with a really fast ball, and I can't really explain how quick this ball coming through the court felt to me, followed by a couple normal 6 or 7 out of 10 rally balls, followed by another really fast ball or really heavy slice or really tough slice coming towards me, and then having that gap again. It was really tough to find my rhythm as a hitting partner to give rhythm to him. And just going back to that point about feel, this was the most extensive anyone that I'd hit with had worked on that feel within the warm-up and practice session before their matches. A lot of slice work, a lot of drop shots. There was drop shots going on almost like every 2 or 3 rallies just to get that feel for it. And it was just about getting a repetition on going from like a normal backhand or going from a slice into that drop shot, and just working on the feel of that drop shot no matter what ball was coming towards him. And he didn't explicitly tell me what type of ball he wanted me to give to him, so I just tried to mix it up as much as I could as well. I was hitting a few normal topspin backhands, followed by some slice, followed by a little bit higher over the net, and just try to stay consistent so that he could do what he wanted with the ball, but also give it a slight bit of variety. Because if he was hitting slice to me, it was tough to get below topspin every single one. So I sliced a few back and then mixed it up with a bit of topspin, then sliced a few and just let him do what he wanted to do with the ball. Now, moving into this forehand cross court, he was starting to hit it really big and flat, and luckily I was feeling my forehand that day, so I was able to get behind it and really time it super well. And like with the Rublev session, I wasn't trying to take a big backswing. I was trying to make my backswing as small as possible and just stay low with my legs and get good timing on it and just use the pace that was coming towards me. And it started to look like he wanted to have a little bit longer rallies, but he still capped it around 5 to 8 shots. He'd change it down the line or go for a drop shot or something. So it would be like powerful, 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 and then change a pace or change a direction. Another thing that was slightly different with this practice was the amount of time that he spent at the net warming up his volleys. And I think this goes back to feel again, because volleys are very much feel shots. You just want to get good timing, good footwork, and really place the ball where you want it to go. And I think we spent just as much time as we did at the back of the court as we did with him at the net practicing his volleys. And same sort of process. He'd go deep for a few and then maybe a drop shot, or deep for a few and then punch out the way out the middle. And these rallies weren't particularly long. I'd say maximum 10 shots again. And if you just listen to the sound of his contacts each time here, they're so clean each time, middle of the strings, and it's just such a clean sound on each ball. And that was something that I really noticed in the session with him here, is that he hardly ever hit the frame on the ball. And some of the other pros, when they were hitting, it wasn't uncommon to see them hit the frame off a bad bounce. But even when there were some slightly tougher bounces here, he was still hitting pretty clean contacts. And I think that just goes to show how good his timing is and how good he reads the game and is able to find really good positioning for each shot. And I don't know if that's just natural talent or something that he's worked on a lot as a kid, but it was really evident here. So this session finished up with him hitting a few serves, and I'm going to end this video with a few clips of me struggling to get them back.